My childhood friend since kindergarten, Kaoru, hanged herself at her house when we were in our last year of middle school. She was a quiet girl and a bit awkward, so she became the target of bullying. Her things would get hidden, vandalized, nasty rumors spread about her. She found insects in her lunch and her uniform got ripped with box cutters. It became worse after we got back from summer break. A group of 5 other girls were in the bully group. They were the stereotypical it girls at our school, and unlike Kaoru and myself, some of them came from a wealthy and powerful family. As such, the teachers would only tell them to stop, but nothing more was ever done. So you can imagine that the bully only got worse as time progressed. I couldn't just sit there and watch it happen, so I told my mum about what was happening. She called the school to try to get the teachers to step in, but again, nothing came of it. It was in December of that year that it happened. I couldn't believe that I would never see my best friend, Kaoru, ever again. I can't explain the grief I felt to this day. Thinking back on the fun times we had together, I tried to focus as much as I could on my studies, and thankfully, I passed my high school entrance exams. 5 months later, in mid-May, I had a strange dream. I was standing alone in a field full of beautiful flowers in all kinds of colors. I knew straight away that I was dreaming. I was walking around for a bit when I heard someone call my name from behind. "Hey, Natsumi!" When I turned around, Kaoru was there. I ran to her, hugged her tight, and said her name over and over. My wish finally came true. Ever since she passed away, I'd been wanting to see her again, even if it was in my dreams. "It's been a while, hasn't it? I really missed you too," Kaoru said to me kindly with a smile. Even though it was a dream, the sensation of our hug felt so real. As if she read my mind, she said, "This is a dream, but I'm really here. I know it sounds strange, but I really did come to see you from the other side." "Really?" I asked. Kaoru began telling me when our birthdays were, our hobbies, the places we'd gone together, and what we had talked about when she was still alive. Not only was everything she said true, her mannerisms, her voice, every little detail was exactly what she used to be like. I couldn't stop crying and didn't let go of her hand as she continued talking. We talked about some of the fun times we had together, about what high school was like, and had some good laughs. Then, all of a sudden, I heard a loud ringing noise coming from high up in the sky. I flinched at the sudden noise, and Kaoru laughed, telling me not to worry, that it was just my alarm clock. She said, "I guess it's time for you to wake up. Bye, Natsumi." "Wait, will I see you again?" "Definitely. I'll come see you again in your dreams. Can't wait to hang out again." I woke up. I stopped the alarm clock and sat up, dazed. I was still reliving the dream and couldn't believe how real everything felt. Usually, memories from a dream fade as you carry on with your day, but this one, the conversations I had with Kaoru, every detail about her and the way she moved remained in mine. She told me we'd see each other again, and I couldn't forget those words. Kaoru didn't disappoint. She continued to appear in my dreams once or twice a week. I would go to sleep excited every night, wondering whether I'd get to see her that night. Kaoru had always been such an easy person to talk to. I could talk to her about anything and everything. Things I couldn't mention to others, I'd have no problem telling her about it. I guess time behaves differently in dreams. When she came to visit, it always felt like the alarm would go off only after an hour, which clearly didn't feel like it was enough. But whenever I woke up, it was already morning and the sunlight would be seeping through the curtains. During one of her visits, I was talking to her about what happened at school that day when I noticed that she seemed a bit down. I asked her what was wrong. She didn't answer for a while, looking as though she was trying to decide whether to tell me or not. And then she said, I need to tell you something. I haven't been able to go up to heaven. I'm caught in limbo, somewhere between heaven and hell. It's a deathly silent and empty place. I came to you because I wanted to see you, of course, but there's actually another reason. Could I ask you for a favor? Do you remember the park? I knew which park she meant instantly. It was a place we would often go after school. We'd buy some juice from the vending machine and sit on a bench and talk. It was a small park with only a set of swings. Kaoru continued, I buried a cloth bag under the biggest tree in that park. I want you to dig it up and bring it to me. A cloth bag? I asked. Yes, and promise me you won't open it. I had a ton of questions, but the alarm went off and I woke up. A cloth bag under a tree? That day, I headed straight for the park after school. The sun was slowly beginning to set. It had been a while since I'd been there last. There was an old woman sitting on the bench, and other than that, it was empty. I looked around and spotted the biggest tree next to the swing set. I took out the small shovel I'd prepared the night before and began digging around the roots. 30 minutes later, I finally found the bag. It wasn't until 4 days later that Kaoru appeared in my dreams. I told her that I'd found the cloth bag she was referring to. She thanked me and apologized for dragging me into it. I said it was completely fine, and more than that, I wanted to know what it was all about. Kaoru looked away and said slowly, You remember Tachibana, don't you? I asked, You mean Yumi Tachibana? Kaoru nodded. Yumi was the leader of the 5 group of girls that were bullying Kaoru. We weren't going to the same high school. We never talked about her bullying in all this time because I felt like it was a taboo topic, so it really caught me off guard to hear her bring up Yumi Tachibana's name. Kaoru said, Remember how I told you I was stuck somewhere between heaven and hell? Well, it's because I have so much anger towards her, and it's what's keeping me from crossing over. I can't accept the fact that Yumi's living her life as if she's done nothing. I can't forgive her, and I want to do something about it. As she said those words, tears were streaming down her face. I want to curse her. The contents of that bag holds what I need to put a curse on her. I was planning to do it at the park before I died. I wanted to unalive myself after I did it, but I got too scared, and I couldn't. I buried the bag at the park and went home, but the bullying continued and I couldn't handle it anymore, so I did what I had to escape it once and for all. A sudden jolt ran through me. Hold on a second. Are you telling me that you want me to put a curse on her? Yes, she replied. Only a person who's still alive can do it. I can't ask anyone other than you. Please, I can't continue like this for eternity. I want to cross over. Being stuck in limbo is really, really sad and lonely. She was still crying, and it broke my heart. This kind-hearted and soft-spoken girl endured so much when she was still on Earth. I looked at the purple mark across her neck, and I felt an emotion I'd never felt before rise from the pit of my stomach. Okay, I'll do it. For you. I didn't want her to suffer anymore, and me too. I couldn't forgive Yumi. Kaoru thanked me, and she smiled, almost looking like she was already at peace. She then proceeded to tell me how to put a curse on Yumi Tachibana. I was told to go to a dark place between 1 and 3 in the morning, put the pouch on a plate, and surround it with 3 candles. After that, she told me to light the pouch on fire and recite a spell until it finished burning. Once that's done, I was to pour some sake onto the ashes and blow out the candles. That's it. Apparently, she got these instructions from a folklore studies book from the library. When she finished explaining the steps to me, she started to tell me something else when the alarm went off. I quickly told her not to worry, that I was going to do it for her, and then I woke up. I quickly wrote down what she told me before I forgot. I didn't know anything about the occult, but felt things would be just fine as long as I followed the instructions properly. That day, I could barely focus at school. I wondered whether Yumi had any regrets or even felt bad about what she pushed Kaoru to do. I wondered whether she was going about her days not giving 2 shits and enjoying her school life. Kaoru didn't get to live out her high school days because of her. And then I wondered what would happen to Yumi if this curse actually worked. Will it just bring bad luck? Or will she die? Or what if... I suddenly felt really scared and thought about not doing it. But I saw Kaoru's sadness and her tears again, and I knew I had to. I had to save her. After school, I stopped at a store and bought some candles. I couldn't buy any alcohol, but remembered my dad's bottle of sake at home, so I decided to take that. At 1:30 a.m., after my family had gone to sleep, I crept into the bath. Luckily, everyone in my family are deep sleepers, and nothing short of a bomb going off would wake them up. I opened the window and put the cloth pouch on a plate. I put the 3 candles around it and poured some sake into a cup. I turned off the lights and my shadow flickered against the wall. Here I was, about to put a curse on someone, and the entire atmosphere was creepy as hell. I was ready. I took a deep breath and was about to light the pouch on fire when I stopped. What's inside? I felt like I kinda had the right to know what the contents were because I was the one doing the ritual after all. So I opened the pouch and looked inside. There was a folded piece of paper inside. When I unfolded it, I saw that it was cut into a shape of a person and was colored bright red on both sides. At the center of this cutout was a name. Natsumi Ichikawa. What? That's my name. There was another small piece of paper inside. It was a picture of me. It had been cut out from a class photo or something. My mind went blank and I leaned back on the wall. I couldn't understand what was going on. The only word circling inside my head was, why? Then I noticed something from the corner of my eye. There were 2 hands hanging onto the ledge of the bathtub. They were bluish-grey in color, definitely not that of a living person. And then I saw a head slowly appear. It was Kaoru. I saw her eyes glaring at me. Her head continued to rise slowly, and I saw her mouth. She had an evil smile plastered on her face, and she said, "Damn, I was so close." Then she disappeared. When I finally recovered from my shock, the candles were half burnt. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Kaoru wasn't holding a grudge towards Yumi Tachibana. She was holding a grudge towards me. I had a flashback to the days when Kaoru was still alive and getting bullied at school. What was I doing to help her? Absolutely nothing. To avoid getting entangled in all of that, I kept my distance from her. I could see her looking at me with pleading eyes, but I did my best to ignore her, acted like we weren't even friends. There was even a time when I laughed along with Yumi Tachibana. I was just like everyone else. When I told my mum what was happening, I didn't actually ask her to call the school. I didn't want the girls to find out that I blabbed my mouth. Kaoru must have felt so alone for her best friend to ignore her when she needed her the most. It must have cut her deeper than all the bullying ever did. After all of this reflection, it dawned on me that it was I was the one who pushed Kaoru to the edge. I made her take her own life. I ran back to my room and screamed into my pillow. I apologized to her over and over again. It's been 2 weeks and she hasn't come to see me in my dreams, but I know deep down she isn't finished with me. I'm sure she's going to appear one day soon, and when she does, it'll probably be the last of me. I should talk to my parents about it and go to a shrine or a temple to get exorcised, but I can't. I don't have the right to run away from this. I deserve what's coming to me. I'm so scared to die, but somewhere deep inside, I'm hoping and praying that Kaoru will forgive me one day. Right, Kaoru? I'm a male, but I was using a female character to play an online RPG game. One day, I partnered up with another female character and we began talking online and playing together often. After a while, I told her that I was actually a guy and asked her if she was female, which she answered in the affirmative. We exchanged numbers and began texting and talking on the phone. We would play every single day, even if it was for a short time, and then one day, there was a few days where she didn't log in. Once she came back, she asked whether I wanted to meet up with her in real life. We'd discussed it a few times before, but kept putting it off because our schedules never matched. When she asked this time though, we were both free over the coming weekend, so we decided on a place and time to finally meet each other for the first time. On the day, I arrived at the cafe and looked around but didn't see anyone matching her description. I waited for 30 minutes. I tried calling her, but she seemed to have shut her phone off. Feeling deflated, played, and a bit embarrassed about the whole situation, I went home. That night, I turned on the TV and saw something unbelievable on the news. A man had been arrested at the cafe where I was supposed to meet up with my online friend. He was arrested for kidnapping and murdering a woman he had met online. If you're not too sure what all of this means, I'll explain it after the next story to give you some time to think about it. My brother experienced this when he was in 3rd grade. That day, he came home after school and headed to a park to meet up with his friend to play. In the late afternoon, myself and our parents went to pick him up at the park. Because we never do that, my brother got really excited to see us there. He quickly told his friends he had to go home and ran to join us. When we got home, he started doing his homework, and I started to help him with it. Again, I usually never do that, so it made him really happy. As we did his homework together, we played games and talked about stuff. Soon it was dinner time, and my mum called us from downstairs. We yelled back that we were coming and ran down. Dinner was all fancy, even though it was an ordinary day. It was my brother's favorite, and after he devoured his serving, our dad, who's usually quiet, asked him if he wanted half of his share. My brother turned on the TV to watch a cartoon show that was always on at that time, but all he got was a sandstorm. He tried changing the channel, but none of them worked. Mum grabbed the remote from his hand and, smiling at him, turned the TV off. At that point, my brother felt a bit creeped out. When dinner was over, Mum, smiling again, said that she had cake for dessert. Then, Dad asked if he wanted to take a bath together, and I told him that I had a new game that we could play together. All these amazing things came out of each of our mouths, but my brother, instead of accepting any of them, decided to play a prank on us. His idea was to go into the toilet and not come out of it. When locked from the inside, the doorknob didn't turn on the outside. If you locked it while it was open and closed the door after, you couldn't open it from either side. When we first moved into the house, my brother always used to play around with it. He would take a coin with him and unlock the door that way when someone was inside. He locked the door, closed it, and hid. He hid inside a small crawl space in the floor and decided to scare whoever came in the toilet to search for him. That's apparently how he was spending his evening. But in reality, that isn't what happened. He had gone missing while he was playing hide and seek with his friend in the park. His friend had heard him yelling out that he was going home and assumed someone had come to pick him up, but no one had witnessed anyone else there. When he didn't come home after dark, we got worried and called the police. We even had the town announce on their loudspeakers set up around the neighborhood for him to come home. I'd never seen my dad so distressed before. He called all of my brother's friends and my mum was crying non-stop. I searched all around the park and asked people whether they'd seen my brother. I honestly thought I would never see him again. While this was going on, my brother was still hiding when he heard the loudspeakers in the neighborhood call out his name, asking him to go home. Needless to say, he became really confused. He then heard the door to the dining room open with a loud bang and footsteps headed towards the toilet. He heard, "We have cake for dessert. Do you want to take a bath together? I have a new game we can play together." It sounded exactly the same as before, as if the voices had been recorded, rewinded, and replayed. My brother remained silent, and again he heard us repeating ourselves, or I should say, the fake us. The doorknob began to shake, and then someone started banging on the door. The banging soon turned into a much louder noise, almost as if someone was ramming into it. My brother was pretty sure they'd kill him if they found him. Soon he heard the loud crack of the door breaking, and then an eerie silence ensued. Luckily, he wasn't spotted, and he heard the voices continue moving up the stairs. He scrambled out of his hiding space and ran out of the house. He didn't bother putting his shoes on and ran like hell when he saw a police car parked next to the park where he was a few hours before. He ran to the policeman and crumbled into his arms, bawling his eyes out. I got a call from my parents because I was the closest, and I ran to meet them there. I'm sitting here writing what the policeman told me after he asked my brother where he'd been. Of course, he didn't believe a word of it, and seeing that he was found safe and sound, it was swept under the rug as just a mini runaway incident. Since then, every day when my brother gets home from school, he turns on the TV and flips through the channel. And whenever I see the look on his face as he does so, it makes it harder to believe that he was lying. Popping back in now to explain what happened in the previous story about a man playing a female character online. The few days where the woman didn't log in to play coincided with when she was kidnapped and eventually killed. The murderer logs into her gaming platform. Now, remember, the man was using a female character to play, so the murderer believes he's talking to an actual woman instead of a man. He suggests to meet up, and they decide to meet over the weekend. They both arrive at the cafe, but the murderer is looking for another woman, while the man, who plays a female character online, is looking for a woman. They're both sitting there waiting for each other, and eventually the man leaves thinking that he got stood up, and the murderer is arrested shortly after. It's most likely the police found the online conversation that clearly occurred after the woman died and traced the killer to the cafe. Around September 2 years ago, so in 2008, I was, as usual, looking at some adult sites on my phone. I'm a young single male, so what else do you do when you're full of energy but don't have anyone to expel it with? Anyway, I came across a diary with photos attached. She was really cute, exactly my type, and she would take pictures of herself in provocative poses. I took no time to look at all the pictures she had, and after I did what I had to do, I proceeded to actually read her diary entries. It became a routine for me, and I continued to follow her for an entire 6 months. In April of the following year, she suddenly went silent. She'd been posting every single day up to that point. There was no contact details, so I couldn't reach out to her, but her last entry was a bit eerie. It read, "Someone's stalking me. Even yesterday, someone came into my room. I guess I became a target because I'm doing what I'm doing. I plan to go to the police tomorrow." She was honestly quite beautiful, and I wasn't surprised that some guy became infatuated with her and took it one step too far. I wondered why she was sharing this on her diary. Didn't she have actual friendships with real people that she could talk to about this? A month later, there was a new entry, but the only thing uploaded was a single photo. It was a picture of an eyeball. I recoiled a bit, wondering what the hell was going on. In the following days, there was a single upload each day. Her breasts, her ear, her nose, both of her arms, her privates, both of her legs, her nails, and finally, her hair. I was getting increasingly scared, but I kept coming back each day. Then there was another entry. It said, "This is what I did to the woman you've been watching. I'm not going to give her to anyone else." Her phone password was her birth date, so it was easy to get into. The picture attached was a dismembered body and a man with a mask on in the forefront. Oh shit. I knew straight away that I had to go to the police, but it was unlikely they'd believe me unless I gave them the link to her diary. I went straight to the police station and gave them the URL. When they opened it, the picture was different. It was now showing the head of the man. The police quickly began moving, and upon pinpointing the woman's home address, sped to it. I was told later that they found a man and a woman's body in the apartment. Two things are still bugging me. First, why and how did the man die? Surely one can't cut off their own head, can they? And second, the diary is still online and hasn't been deleted. This may sound fake, but I promise you, it's all true.